Well, hello there, you beautiful people. How are you doing? It's getting a little weird, sorry. Okay. Hey everyone, my name's Chris.
I'm Gary.
So we're doing something of a follow-up to the last video that we made where we were talking about shooters. Well, that last video we were mostly talking about first-person shooters. We decided to maybe spend some time talking about third-person shooters, and to do that I figured we would play a little bit of Resident Evil 4, which is something that is very, very near and dear to my heart. But Gary, have you played this game at all?
I played it a little bit, but yeah, it was already dated by the time I played it, and I could not wrap my head around the control scheme.
I will fully admit, I will be one of the first people to admit that this game has not aged well at all. And for somebody who has been used to dual analog stick controls to play this game, not going to work.
Yeah, I could not get used to it. I had played Gears of War way too much. And,
yeah.
But, before we get going on all the third-person shooters, we still had quite a few topics to cover on our first-person shooters. So we're going to do a quick rundown of those just to get those out of the way.
Sure.
And then we'll get through on our third-person.
Sure.
But first, I did not get to do Chris's one-word breakdowns.
Oh, you
for
son of a...
first-person shooters.
Yep, alright, give them to me.
Alright, so I'm going to do id properties.
Oh, I got this one in the bag. Alright, let's do it.
So, Quake.
Quake. Revolutionary.
Alright. Doom, obviously.
Hardcore.
Alright. Wolfenstein.
I don't know why I did what I just did, because I totally could have used that. Okay, sorry, Wolfenstein. Cathartic.
Okay, and then Rage, unless I'm forgetting one, is the last one.
Potential.
Okay.
I will say that Rage has potential.
Alright. So, yeah, like I said, that's all of them, right, Chris?
That's all of the, like, individual ones, like the major ones. You can argue that, like, there are some games that were developed on id Tech that were not technically developed by id, like Heretic and Hexen and that kind of thing. But, yeah, they weren't technically id properties, so we'll go over them. Oh, you know what? You did miss Commander Keen. Yeah, you don't even know what that is, do you?
Nope.
Commander Keen was an old school third-person, or not third-person, old school... oh, wait, actually, you get up here. You hang out up here while I do this. Wait. There we go. Okay. Commander Keen was basically a Mario clone. You were like a little kid who ran around the galaxy and zapped monsters and slugs with blaster rifle.
I
It
think
was like
I
little
actually
blaster.
have seen like YouTube videos of that or something.
So it's actually really interesting because, all right, sorry, we're getting way off topic from third-person shooters here, but this is a quick little thing, but I really, really love it. So John Carmack, who was basically a programming genius, decided that he was going to emulate Super Mario Brothers on the PC, which had never been done before, and everyone said that the PC was just not powerful enough to do. He recreated all of Super Mario Brothers from scratch, and then presented it to Nintendo, who were like, no, we're not interested in doing that. Anyway.
Good
yeah.
job, Nintendo.
Commander Keen. Commander Keen, I would say... delightful.
Okay. Wow. Okay, so... Alright, one-word breakdowns are taken care of. Something I really want to touch on was... GTA 5 released a first-person mode when it re-released for the PS4. It was one where they were trying to like make it worthwhile to buy, like a new experience. And I played it a little bit, and I was just blown away at how this game seemed fresh, even though I'd already played it ad nauseum on the 360.
That's a good segue into this category anyway, because GTA 5 was originally a third-person game, yeah?
Exactly. It kind of bridged the gap and showed them that it was possible to be both.
Now, I have spent very, very little time playing Grand Theft Auto. That was another franchise that just wasn't for me, partly because I, as a person, am just not into, like, gangster stories, and I feel like pretty much all of GTA was very much founded on the principle of, like, old-school gangster flicks and that kind of thing. So, it's not really my thing, but tell me about Grand Theft Auto.
Well, the games are so different, really.
I mean, obviously, it's like one of the most controversial like gaming
Yeah,
series
like-
in like the history of video games,
I
if
started-
not the most
I started
controversial.
with 3, and you start off as like kind of a voiceless criminal who gets betrayed, and the whole game is about getting vengeance on the woman who betrayed you, and obviously you do. Vice City was like a true gangster, very Scarface. They drew a lot of inspiration because it was set in a Miami clone.
Yeah, I kind of heard that Vice City was the first one that really, really like pushed the boundaries for that type of game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like 3 was violent, but Vice City added things that made it feel more real. And then San Andreas was more of the West Coast gangster feel, and he became like a rapper and all this other stuff, and he took over the city.
Yeah.
4 kind of went back to the roots of 3 with like to put it blunt, kind of poor protagonist that works his way up. 4 had a lot of problems, I think, but 5 I think really they found a working model because they had 3 different characters, so you could play as the one you identified most with, or enjoyed most.
Okay.
And
wait, so you could just play as either of them, like any of them interchangeably? It wasn't like you played this part of the dang it. It wasn't like you played this part of the game as this guy, this part of the game as this other guy, and blah blah blah.
There were sections at the beginning where you could only play as one, and then you got another one, and you could play as either of them, and then for a short bit you played where you could only be one person, like the third person. And then finally, like, you all link up, and you're able to just switch interchangeably. Like, anytime not in a mission, you could switch, and then during most missions, you could also switch.
Okay.
If you were all together during the mission.
So, if we were to do the next category of one-word breakdowns, sir, let's do Grand Theft Auto. So we'll start with the first one, Grand Theft Auto.
I have not played that or 2.
Okay, fair enough. So you said that the first one you played was... Oh, shoot. I
3.
actually got to focus on this. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay, problem. Oh, you con. Duh. There we go. Ooh! Buddy. Okay. Sorry. This is probably one, like, in the top, like, 5 hardest moments in the game.
Okay.
So... I forgot I was doing it. I just kind of like loaded up my my most recent save file of this game, and that's what we're playing here. This isn't like the beginning of the game or anything like that.
Yeah. So my first one was 3, and that I will say revolutionary on.
Okay. Next up would be Vice City, right? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Motorcycles. That was the first game with motorcycles.
Oh, shoot. Then it was San Andreas?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna say overrated.
Okay. And then did they get into 4 after that?
4.
Okay.
They had some like spin-offs that I never played, but 4 is the next one I played. Complicated.
Okay.
Yeah. Then 5, I would say, was masterful.
Oh, shoot. Okay. I am probably going to die here.
Oh, no.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Alright, so, another one to kind of help finish off our,
Well, I didn't die, but Ashley died. Anyway, sorry. Okay.
another one to help finish off our first-person shooters. You want to touch on Far Cry a little bit?
Oh, yeah. I didn't care about Far Cry. I played Far Cry 2 a little bit, and, I didn't care about anything about it. Apparently,
Okay.
Far Cry 3 was the most successful, and that was the one that had Michael Mando in it, who played Nacho on Better Call Saul. And that guy is awesome. I love him. But yeah, I didn't care about.
All right, well then, next up is things that are very near and dear to my heart. I don't know how much you played them, but GoldenEye and Perfect Dark for the N64. They were my real first introduction to first-person shooters. And while I liked GoldenEye, Perfect Dark to me was like the perfect game because, you could play with a friend against the computer in situations on maps you created, and it was the difficulty you wanted.
Was there custom map making on that?
Yeah, well,
that's
not
cool.
custom map making, but you had like 25 maps to choose from.
Oh, okay.
And then you could select what weapons were on that map. even
Okay.
going so far as to select where they were. And then you could select what type of enemy you fought. And it wasn't just how difficult the enemy was. They had different traits. Like, they would behave differently. Like, for example, a guy, they had a trait called the Venge Sim. And he would always go after the person who last killed him.
Oh, because vengeance. Okay.
Yeah, and then they had someone called a Judge Sim that would always go after the player that was in the top, the top score.
Okay.
And so you could create these like situations that were unique and different. You could literally play a million matches and you could make them all different.
Okay.
And it was amazing. And they had some that were slow. You had some that wouldn't even fight. They were just called peace sims. They'd run away from you. And it was just really interesting. And it's a game I have on the 360. It's a remake, and I played it extensively. And
Yeah.
I'm one level from having beaten all of it. And,
Yeah.
It's just I don't have the time to game anymore, unfortunately.
Right. So I think that we've covered all the first-person shooters that we want to do. So let's move into the subject for this actual video, which was third-person shooters. So we're playing Resident Evil 4 here. Resident Evil 4 was undeniably, raw. Honestly, I would say it's the most influential third-person game ever. I really do think that. Purely because it was the first game that introduced the over-the-counter, the over-the-shoulder camera, which is just the default now. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, because before they were always like behind you,
a
significant amount.
Yeah, it was just directly behind you, facing straight ahead. That's how like all the original Army Men games were, which were games that I loved when I was a kid, which I fully admit were not great games.
Yeah.
But so it was Resident Evil 4 that was just kind of like, why don't we just put the camera over the shoulder like this and not directly behind him? I can't even like do it.
Yeah, because Freedom Fighters, a third-person shooter game I really liked, that came out probably a year before this, give or take. You were further off your character.
Yeah.
And it was because you had a squad with you, and it was easier to keep tabs on your squad that way.
Yeah.
So there was a story reason, but yeah, I actually don't recall ever seeing this.
Yeah, it was straight up the first game, and now it is the standard. And just because it was, it's inarguably the best Resident Evil game out of the whole franchise.
Yeah.
It kind of helped to propel, horror games into the action stratosphere. Like, this was the first game that was, like, the really big action one in Resident Evil, which was kind of a big deal. But it was obviously, like, for the best.
And because they haven't been able to top it, they had to go back to the roots with
Yeah,
horror.
yeah, there was...
They kept trying to top it.
Oh, jeez. I don't even want to talk about those games.
Okay.
But I will say there was actually a Resident Evil game...
It's, like, the most, plot sensitive things. Like, okay, I'm right next to you, I'm gonna walk now.
Yes.
I'm gonna run until I get right near you.
Well, part of it is that they have like parasites in them, so they're like zombies, but they're not zombies.
Yeah.
But anyway.
28 Days Later syndrome.
Yeah, Resident Evil Revelations 2 was a pretty solid Resident Evil game, actually. I did like that one quite a bit. Follow me. Is that all of them? Did I kill all the guys? I might have killed all the guys.
Possibly.
Okay.
Alright, so this was the granddaddy progenitor of these games, kinda, in a lot of ways.
I think so.
Where they came of age.
Yeah.
So it's, we had some games we want to talk about that, took what this built and really ran with it for success. And I know one that we both really like, in a lot of ways because of the story, but also the gameplay was really fun, is Spec Ops: The Line.
Ooh, well, okay, I'm going to kind of disagree with you there because I honestly think that Spec Ops: The Line had utterly generic gameplay, but yeah, it was the storytelling, the characters, and the atmosphere that made it such a harrowing, haunting experience.
That's true. I guess the gameplay was pretty standard. The setting was really good. The setting was
good. The gameplay was just Gears of War. It was just a third person, oh, shoot, hey, buddy.
Well, I did like that there were things in the environment that you could really use to your advantage. Like, you could shoot a glass wall that had sand behind it, and the sand would come pouring out on enemies.
Yeah, the problem with that was that they were very specific circumstances with it. Like, they were very specific conditions.
They weren't spread around enough for innovation.
Yeah, it wasn't common enough to, like, make it...
It wasn't like Bulletstorm, where it was just, like, improv. It was very clearly, I'm supposed to do this.
Buddy. You just hit my Ashley.
It wasn't just there; it was there for you to do that, not improv. And be different each time.
Right.
The way that Bulletstorm kind of innovated that kind of a shooting game.
Yeah, I didn't actually play Bulletstorm like at all, but it's apparently pretty good. I've got one friend who really likes it a lot.
I want to get the remake at some point, to be honest.
Yeah,
but
Spec Ops: The Line though, in terms of presentation and in terms of like being a self-aware game that was designed to literally mess with you as the player. It's honestly like one of the most perfectly written games like ever.
And when you replay it, everything that they reveal makes perfect sense.
And
you should have caught it, but you didn't.
and there were plenty of things that were that like broke the fourth wall that messed with you, like with the menu screen being different whenever you fired it up, depending on how far you were in the game. Loading screens that like asked you really messed up questions that like. Or said really messed up things. Like one of the questions was, "Do you feel like a hero yet?" You know, that was one of the loading screen questions.
See, I don't remember that because I actually think I beat the game in 2 settings.
Yeah, dude, it just sucked you in.
And like I think the first break was after like the 3rd mission.
Oh, jeez.
And then I played the rest of the game in 1 setting.
I
didn't get to experience that.
There's a really creepy moment near the end of the game where, like when you're trying to go through a door. One of the, like, Juggernaut enemies... Okay, what am I supposed to do right now? Oh, I remember what I'm supposed to do. Okay. One of the, like, Juggernaut enemies busts through a door, and it looks like one of your squad mates, and it, like, throws you off, but he's, like, really hard to kill, way harder to kill than one of the, like, even regular ones. And when he kills you, because he usually does, the loading screen for it is of this, like, twisted lullaby thing, and it's not, like, a regular loading screen. And then when you reload the game at that point, it's just a regular enemy.
Huh.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
Yeah, there are little things like that in the game that are just, like, ugh. Like, the game is not meant to make you feel like a good person, and for that... Yeah. It is so good.
We're not going to touch on this particular aspect at all because you really should experience it, but the white phosphorus part of the game. YouTube it if you need to.
Don't YouTube it, just play it.
Just play it, but if you can't play it...
The game is reliant on you having done it as the player.
That's true.
And if you just watch somebody do it, it's not going to have the same effect.
It's true. Play it. But that is an amazing, powerful scene. Probably one of the most powerful that a video game... has ever done.
Yeah, it's super good.
For you to actually feel something in the real world. Yeah,
I remember watching some sort of interview about the end of the game. They were, because it's a big thing, and I don't want to spoil it, but there's a big thing where the developer said that they wanted you to feel like you had been through like a literal hell war zone, and they wanted you to just put the controller down and be like, I don't want to do this anymore. Yeah, and I did that.
I think I did too. I was like, I don't know why I just did that. like there had to been another way.
Well, for me, the reason why was because, again, I don't want to spoil it, but it was based on like you need to do a thing, but like the choices that you can make for that thing are different, and it affects the ending differently. And I thought, I'm just going to do nothing, and that's going to be the right thing to do. Well, it turned out it wasn't, but
yeah,
it was just something that I was like, I don't want to even do anything here.
Yeah, but yeah, so definitely play that game, play that scene at least if you can.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Be prepared for the game to be like kind of generic, because it is a very generic by the books cover-based shooter, but it's still
the story is a journey.
It's functional.
That you gotta play. But you know, and then okay, to touch on
I'm doing this so badly. I promise I'm much better at this game normally.
Okay, a series that in a lot of ways is the basis of our friendship, actually, Chris. Gears of War.
Oh yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah,
because you and I had many nights, like back when we first met, just playing through Gears of War 2.
Especially the multiplayer.
Yeah.
Or the
Horde mode. I remember doing Horde mode.
The
with
simulation, or just playing the bots and just beating the crap out of them left and right.
Yeah, that was fun to do.
Yeah, Horde mode was enjoyable. I think we both got kind of tired of Horde mode.
I didn't love it. I mean, it was okay, but you were the one that was like, I gotta beat like level 50 of Horde mode.
Yeah, I had to beat it, but it really wasn't fun.
Yeah, I remember helping you do that.
Yeah. The fun part was never that. It was I have to do this. The challenge.
Now, the thing that sold Gears of War for me was a similar way to how I was sold with games like Doom and all that, when that was just like unabashed, like gritty, just cold stone, like cold steel, chaos, blood and gore.
Yeah, run out of ammo, just chainsaw.
Yeah. There's like chainsaws and just like it was a very, very, very graphic, very intense game.
Like, you don't need to get gas for your chainsaw, just chainsaw.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that would have actually broken the game if you'd had to gather gas for the chainsaw.
Yeah. Quick time events. It's one thing that this game introduced, for better or for worse, which I think we're getting into the point where it's for worse.
But, yeah. That's one aspect, though, that you said worked pretty well on the Wii because of some of the quick times, right?
Yeah. Some of the QuickTime events on the Wii version were actually a lot easier because it was basically just shake the controller.
Yeah. So yeah, let's do your one-word breakdowns for this category.
Sure.
Gears of War games. 1.
I'm not very good with this one though because I've only played 1 and 2. I haven't played. I've played through a little bit of 3, but like
all right,
really not at all.
We'll do. Oh, I have a different one. All right, never mind. Skip that one. But yeah, I mean, just to touch a little bit more on Gears of War, I think we're both in agreement that 1 probably has the best story.
Yeah, one was the best way to introduce.
It was you and some of your friends saving the world.
Yeah, and the thing that I also like, I swear, when I look at gameplay of 1 and 2 side by side, 1 looks better, and I think that's because the palette is different. Mm-hmm. It's more black and gray and silver, and the palette for the second one has a lot more earthy colors in it. It's got a lot of like browns,
blues and browns.
Yeah, and
I think this 2 started something that similar to what Halo did, where they added too many enemies.
Yeah.
It just, you don't need that many enemies. You just need them in different combinations.
Yeah.
And 3, it had completely broken. There were too many enemy types. It was just boring because all they were doing is throwing different wave after wave of enemies at you. I think there were like 30 enemy types by 3, and it was just overload.
Yeah, and, that sounds fair.
Once again, the Gears of War Judgment, prequel, simplified it, and I think it was better for it.
Okay, yeah. I don't know if I've got a good. Tell you what, though, since you're pretty familiar with Gears of War, let's do that. Let's do that for you if you don't mind. Give me a one-word breakdown for all of the Gears of War games.
Didn't we just do me for Grand Theft Auto?
Shh.
All right. 1.
Watch out for me.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that.
Perfect. Okay. All right. Gears of War 2 then.
Enjoyable.
Okay. Gears 3.
Complicated. I think I've used that for other categories, but complicated.
Gears 4.
I have not played that one.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then Gears Judgment, right?
Yeah.
You son of a...
Refreshing. It was a change of pace. It was refreshing.
Yeah, I remember you saying that you initially didn't like Judgment, but then you,
I had to get used to it. The scoring system at the end of each level, I felt like I was being... Well, in the first act, the missions are really short.
Yeah.
Like, super short, and they're just not as enjoyable. There's not much time for plot development, character development. But by, like, the second act, they kind of even out, and they feel more like Gears missions.
Okay.
So I really think that they just didn't have enough to make the first act longer, so they kind of just shortened the individual chapters.
Okay.
But just to move along so we make sure we get through everything.
Yeah, sure.
Something that we had initially forgotten about, but Saints Row is a series that we have got to touch on, and that is your one-word breakdown.
Okay, fair enough.
Saints Row 1.
Fair enough. Copycat.
Okay. Alright, Saints Row 2.
Wonderful.
Alright, Saints Row 3.
Silly.
Okay, 4.
Excessive.
Okay, and then have you played Gat Out of Hell?
I have.
Okay.
Oh, hey, guy. Fun.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed Gat Out of Hell. I actually beat Gat Out of Hell.
Okay. Yeah, one thing I really like the Saints Row series is 2 had a glitch where if you stood on the car, you could teleport into it.
Yeah.
And basically, I got to the point where I never got into a car any other way.
Yeah.
Like, literally, the door could be open.
Yeah.
And I would hop on the roof and teleport in.
Right.
And rather than fixing the glitch with a patch, they left it in. And then in 3, rather than fixing they fixed the glitch, but they made it to where you could just basically teleport into any car.
Yeah, they even had a name for it. I forget what they called it.
Jacking or something. I can't remember.
No, it was something. It was some weird. I want to say it was like an Asian-based thing because it was supposed to be like a kung fu move or something like that.
Yeah.
I want to say it was like. Oh, I forget what they called it.
But they realized that getting into the car isn't the fun part.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's unnecessary, so they just
Yeah.
embraced what people liked.
Right. It wasn't a Kimbo, but it was something
like that.
Car Kimbo or some nonsense.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But
yeah, where you just like dive bomb your way through the windshield into the car, and you're just like, that doesn't make any physical sense, but I'm on board with this.
Yeah, it was a series where really they looked at what the people enjoyed and ran with it. Other than spoiler, they kill the best character off in the first few minutes of 3, and their whole reason was they wanted to shock the audience, and I'm like, that is the worst reason to kill off a character.
Yeah.
It's got to work in the plot, and when he's the fan favorite, at least give people a choice. Like, they should have let you choose which character died.
Yeah.
And that would have been a reason to replay the game.
Yeah, maybe they could have done like the whole Gears of War New Order thing where you had to like save one of your 2 gang members or whatever.
Yeah. So if you enjoyed the serious nature of one of the characters named Pierce, you could kill off Gat. Mm-hmm. Or if you enjoyed Gat, as you should, because you like to be right on things,
right,
you kill off Pierce.
Right.
You needed Shandi, the female character, for a plot reason near the end of the game, but Pierce really didn't accomplish much. Let's just go with that.
What did she... Oh, yeah.
She was one of the damsels.
Right.
Like, we gotta save the women.
Yeah.
Holding out for a hero.
Yeah, that was a really good like last moment of the game.
Yeah.
I one of the reasons why I kind of stopped getting really invested into the Saints Row franchise was just because they broke away from telling like actually good stories with good characters to just make it over the top craziness.
Yeah, because
I feel like it suffered for that.
The thing about 2 was like it was important that they were in Stillwater.
Yeah,
like they cared about their town, but they also wanted to be crime bosses.
Right.
And in 3, there was a reason to go to another city. I will fully give. They created an interesting reason to go to another city. They did not create an interesting reason to stay there.
Yeah, I don't understand why they stayed in Steelport.
The whole thing is you've taken over Stillwater. Go back to Stillwater.
Yeah.
Like, I think it would have been interesting to have both cities and be able to travel between them.
Yeah, but then you got to program 2 whole cities into the game, and I mean, nowadays, like with like disc limitations and all that, like I don't think it's that big of a deal to do that.
Or they could have created a better reason for why they hadn't gone back to Stillwater yet.
Yeah.
But in the game, you accomplished the mission that you went to Stillport for, like a third of the way through the game. Mm-hmm. Like, so it didn't really make that much sense to stay there.
Yeah, I do remember that. I feel like it was when you kill the main crime boss or whoever that messed with you back in Stillwater, and all of a sudden was like, okay, can we leave here? But like, no, we're
gonna take the city over.
Yeah, you just stick around, and it didn't really make sense.
But yeah, I think the crown jewel of that series is probably 2.
I would agree.
It's a fun game. The controls are a little off.
The controls have not aged well.
Yeah, but it's fun. The characters are enjoyable, and really at the heart of it, there's some real depth to the story. Like, the character who betrayed you in the first one, you track him down and he explains why, and it's because you became everything you were supposed to be fighting against.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite lines, this might not... Your main rivals in the first game were the Vice Kings, and they wore yellow.
Yeah,
Your
the
gang
gang colors
wore
and all that.
Saint.
Yeah.
You were the Saints, and you wore purple.
Right.
And when you track down Julius, the guy who betrayed you, he's like, we became Vice Kings wearing purple.
Yeah, we just became Vice Kings wearing purple. And he was voiced by Keith David, who was a wonderful voice actor.
Yeah, and it's a powerful moment that, like, you know, if you really hadn't been thinking of your actions this whole time, you know, in the game, it really made you sit back and be like, wow, yeah, actually, that's totally legit. Like, we started off as the good guys trying to defend our neighborhoods, and we just became crappy people.
Yeah. That was the thing that, that's what I was talking about. Like, Saints Row, even the first game, even if it was just basically a carbon copy clone of, like, Grand Theft Auto, but not quite as, like, mechanically refined, they still had a story and they still had characters. The second one perfected the story and perfected the characters. The third one, they got away from that just for the sake of telling jokes. And that's where the series started to suffer.
And one thing I do really think 3 did really well, they used music in really good places that really helped tell the story. And I kind of made this joke about holding out for a hero earlier, but the final mission, you're kind of given 2 options. You can either save 2 of the girls in your gang, or you can go kill the bad guy.
Right.
And the canon ending is actually saving the girls.
Yeah, it is.
Like, that's what you're supposed to do. And to kind of help guide you to that,
they start playing the song "I Need a Hero."
Yeah,
and
I think it only plays if you're driving away from them.
No, it just starts playing no matter what.
Okay. But I actually was going to kill the bad guy.
Really?
And then that started playing, and I was like, I gotta turn around.
I hadn't decided, because, like, if I remember correctly, it comes up in the middle of, like, chaos. Like, there's, the city basically declares war on you, and you're like, oh, I gotta, like, fight a bunch of dudes right now. I remember...
okay, I think if you get into a car fast enough, it's before you play. Because I think I ignored all the dudes and just hopped in a car.
Okay. But,
Oh, one other thing that was really good about 2 was if you made a car you really liked, you had infinite of that car.
Yeah.
And one of your gang members would actually drive it to you. So you were never, like, stuck somewhere with a crappy car, which is something I despised about the Grand Theft Auto series. Is there'd be times I'd be, like, stuck with, like, a beat-up old van as my only mean of transportation.
2 rifle shots and that didn't kill you? Bugs. Sorry. Yeah, I forget the specific mechanics of that kind of thing. Like, whenever I played the game, it was way less of... Excuse me. There we go. It was way less of, like, oh, I want to use this specific type of car, and, like, whenever I needed to get from A to B, I would just steal somebody's car. Because that was the point of the game.
No, I totally understand that, but it's like, I hated when you would be stuck with a crappy car.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't know. I kind of found it charming
Saints
to be
Row
like...
wasn't as bad about that. No, that's something Grand Theft Auto will... Grand Theft Auto games always have this kind of engine to where certain cars spawn more frequently. So there'll be sometimes where you see nothing but sports cars, and then other times you see nothing but slow, you know, box fans.
And that can be
really frustrating.
Yeah.
When, like, you don't have a fast travel system. So
Yeah.
But
did you play? I remember you saying that you started Saints Row 4, but you didn't make it very
I got about
far.
a third of the way through, and it really wasn't because lack of interest. I think just something came up, and then by the time I could get back to it, I had to start over, and that was like, that's kind of the killer for me with the game. Is like, I don't remember it well enough to just continue on, but I also don't want to start over.
Right.
And I usually just end up not playing the game.
Yeah.
But do you have anything else on Saints Row, Chris? Or I was going to move on to something that is really mostly going to be me talking and you asking questions.
No, that's fine. I'm trying to... Like, yeah, Saints Row 2 is the best, but it hasn't aged well. If they remade 2 with controls of, like, 3 and 4, I'd buy that in an instant.
Oh, yeah, they released even just 1, 2, and 3, maybe 4 on, like, the PS4 with 3 and 4's controls.
Yeah.
I'd pay $60 for that, and you know I'm usually against paying $60 for a remaster.
Yeah. And, you know, I will say, too, that I was actually pleasantly surprised by Gat Out of Hell. Because the biggest thing for me was that it was its own map. It wasn't just Steelport copy-pasted. You know, hell was its own place, and also because it was hell, it just reminded me of like this, you know, old school 80s, you know, thrash metal kind of feel to it. The only thing that I was kind of disappointed by was that Gat is really cool, but I don't think that he should be like the main character. He should be a supporting character.
No, characters like that are not meant to be the main character.
Yeah. So that was really my only complaint about it. But otherwise, like, Gat Out of Hell was actually pretty solid.
Yeah, one other note for Saints Row guys, the British voice is the correct voice. just putting that out there. But
in Saints Row 2, he was voiced by, I forget the guy's name. But he was Mr. Sheffield from The Nanny, who is an actual, like, actor, and way better. They get, like, some random dude trying to do a Cockney voice for, like, the third game. And I think that he was trying to impersonate Jason Statham, but, like, it doesn't work. And it just doesn't land. The Cockney voice, specifically in the second game, that's the winning
perfection.
one. Yes.
Alright, but to move on to a series that, like I said, Chris won't have too much to contribute per se, but he might have questions or just, you know, cultural stuff. Mass Effect.
Oh, yeah.
Third-person shooter.
Yeah.
That, I mean, I really think is the preeminent sci-fi of the 2000s.
Video game-wise.
I would argue any medium.
Really?
Like, from a quality standpoint to advancing issues, like, you know, the way that Star Trek advanced, like, concepts of, like, equality among races and nationalities.
Yeah.
Because one of the big things about Mass Effect was they did not shy away from same-sex relationships at all. And they also kind of put humanity in its place where, like, you know, all these other fictions have humanity being, like, leaders in the galaxy. And in the Mass Effect universe, you start off as, like, humans are kind of those annoying people who want more responsibility but aren't really ready for it.
Yeah.
And, you know, the first game, extremely dated, did not really play that well then, but the story was really good, so you put up with it. Especially the driving missions are horrible. 2 and 3 refined the combat and do a more perfect third-person over-the-top perspective.
Over the shoulder.
Over the shoulder, thank you.
Yeah.
Perspective. And really up until the very end of the third game, the story stayed good too. So you had great gameplay and a great story. And this galaxy where your choices were impacting who was available to help you, you know, what resources you had available. And, you know, they dropped the ball at the end of the third game with all that not being meaningful. But overall, like, Mass Effect from, like, a game perspective was, I think, a stroke of genius. And as a universe, it's a shame that they ruined it with a bad game, Andromeda, and it appears they won't be, you know, going back to it.
Yeah, last I checked, the Mass Effect series was just put on ice. I think.
Yeah, they basically broke it. Like, they took this wonderful series, and they didn't put, I'm not even gonna say the effort, but they didn't have the right people in place to make a quality follow-up to the story. And they took this wonderful universe with lore galore. Mm-hmm. Like, they had so many opportunities for stories and so many races that hadn't been touched on and things to explore.
Right.
And they effed it up because they forgot what people actually cared about, which was a tight-knit story.
Yeah, I had heard that one of the biggest, that arguably the biggest problem with Andromeda was that they focused less on the narrative and the actual characters and the plot, and more on the multiplayer protocol.
Yeah.
Because they knew that, like, most people who played Mass Effect apparently played it for the multiplayer. Well, you still need to, like, actually have a reason to have them play, and if you don't have a good story or character in a game where literally your choices and the things that you say are dependent on your play experience.
Yeah, I think someone told me that they did this thing where they looked at total time spent playing the game. Mm-hmm. And, you know, multiplayer actually outstripped single player on the third game. But it didn't take into account that so many people bought the game who never touched the multiplayer. So yes, the people who played the multiplayer played the crap out of it. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't why people bought the game.
Yeah.
You know, people bought the game because they loved 2, which had no multiplayer. And then they happened to enjoy the multiplayer on 3. But it wasn't the selling point. And they didn't really understand that. And I really hope that they either remaster the first 3 games or in a few years decide to put someone competent in charge and try and add another worthy entry to the series, because there's still stories to tell.
Yeah. Now, they didn't say that they were just going to cancel the whole thing, but it seems like there is just no... they just said there are no plans to do anything with the series right now. Do you think that we're going to get another Mass Effect game in the next, 10 years?
I think probably so. Like, they'll have somebody with an idea and they'll have nothing else to work on. They need a quick pay cash grab. And I think what they'll do is they actually kill off Commander Shepard at the end of the third game. So they'll pull a Halo where, we're going to bring him back, give a new trilogy.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought that you didn't play as Commander Shepard in Andromeda, and that was another thing that people didn't like about it.
It was actually interesting. I guess the whole plot of Andromeda is that those people left the galaxy prior to the events of the first game. So even though it was taking place centuries in advance, they knew nothing of what happened. But, so yeah, it'd be interesting if they decide to give Shepard a new trilogy, which, I mean, I know they flat out said they wouldn't do, but hey, who wants to make a buck? Everybody.
Right.
And that's the easiest way to fix the damage they've done with Andromeda. And
Right.
I think part of the problem is so much of our galaxy was left unexplored. Like, why are you going to this new galaxy?
Yeah, okay.
Like, yeah, the galaxy's a big place. There's plenty to do here.
For some reason, I don't know if this was the main reason, but I never got into Mass Effect as a series because I feel like arguably the selling point for the series was the whole multiple choice thing. You know, the dialogue trees and that kind of thing. You know, the mechanics were neat and all, but at its core, it was a pretty basic mechanical game. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple third-person shooter. There's not that, there's not a lot of puzzle solving by any means. Some shooting, but the shooting's relatively easy. Especially the first game where you don't run out of ammo.
Right. So I would say that the whole dialogue trees kind of sold it. I don't care about that. Honestly, that doesn't change the game for me, and it's honestly just not as good as tabletop gaming for me. You know what I mean? I don't like having the whole thing was that you have freedom to choose what you say, but hardly any of those things were things that I would actually say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
One thing I think they actually, I can't remember if this was in the first game or not, but I know in the later games they had it where you could select what level of dialogue tree you wanted.
Yeah.
And you could actually have it to where there was very little combat and it was just mostly your choices. Or you could have almost no choices and more combat. And I always played the medium because I kind of wanted both.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, it's a series I would definitely like to revisit. But, all right. I think next on our list is a game that we both really appreciate. And for me personally, it is the best game on PS3 and PS4, Last of Us.
Oh, yeah. Super great game.
Yeah. I actually owned a PS3 simply to play PS2 games on. But when I saw the video for Last of Us, I absolutely had to get it.
I remember seeing the one of the first gameplay trailers for the Last of Us, and I remember thinking that was staged. There was no way that it was going to be like that. And there were little tiny nuances that changed by the time the game had come out, but that was it.
And I remember we were actually living together at the time. We had a third roommate.
Yeah.
And all three of us independently were hooked on The Last of Us.
Yeah.
And we would watch each other if that person was playing a part we'd already been to, but we would leave if they caught up to us because we didn't want to spoil anything.
Right. Incidentally, that was also the same time that we played Spec Ops: The Line.
Yep.
Same household.
Yeah, and but that was the only game all three of us played like that.
Yeah.
We were all hooked. We were all just engrossed, and yeah, to this day, that game is a great storytelling, and
that's actually become one of the games where people will try to argue that video games can be an art form. They'll use The Last of Us as an example.
Yeah, we didn't touch on that, but BioShock was another great example.
Right.
BioShock and Portal, really. But The Last of Us is it's movie film industry quality storytelling.
Yes.
And
acting.
And acting, yes. It's extremely well voice acted.
Motion capture is top notch. Like everything about it is just very, very immersive. But on top of that, it's just beautifully well written.
Yeah.
It's just a very compelling, like good story. Very good characters, very well executed, and oh man, the ending is just
Powerful beyond belief. Like, I guess there were talks of making it a choice ending, and they just came down to they couldn't do that because it seemed forced,
yeah.
and because one ending would just be so horrible.
That's how I feel also about games like Mass Effect, is that I don't like multiple endings because it just kind of feels like, I don't know, it just feels artificial. It doesn't feel like an actual story to me.
Well, don't worry about that, because Mass Effect, no matter what choices you made, had the same ending, which is one main complaint about it.
Fair enough.
Oh yeah, I chose to commit genocide, but hey, same ending as when I saved that entire species. Yeah, same ending.
Oh, well, there you go.
But yeah, I mean, Last of Us, that's a game I'm anxiously awaiting the sequel on.
Yeah. They announced it like a year ago, but they have not shown any actual gameplay footage.
I hope that's just because they're doing it right.
I'm sure it is.
You know,
they probably just wanted to reassure people that they are working on it and that it's going to take time, but they are working on it.
You know,
Naughty Dog is pretty good about keeping to their schedules.
Mm-hmm. Like, they got their plans. They're going to do it right.
Yeah.
You know, another game, I should have touched on this when we talked about Grand Theft Auto, but Red Dead Redemption to me is also one of those games that I would consider a piece of art.
I have not played any Red Dead Redemption, but I know that it is also a game that is like heralded as one of those like classic
from a storytelling.
Yeah, pinnacle games.
Like, it's an unbelievable, powerful story, and you wouldn't think it'd be as fun riding around the desert on a horse as driving like a car, but it actually is. And
yeah, because isn't it basically Grand Theft Auto in the Old West?
Yeah, and you know, you can tie up people and put them on the train tracks and all that jazz.
Yeah.
That's actually one of the achievements, is put a woman on the train tracks.
Because of course.
And I could never bring myself to do that to like an innocent woman. But there are these random events that happen where like people try to rob you. Mm-hmm. And one of them, there's a woman that actually like is involved, and she like says she's like being attacked, but then she betrays you. Mm-hmm. So what I did was I took out all of her buddies that like ambushed me, and then because she was a bad guy, I used her to get the achievement. But yeah, that to me, and I probably won't play the Red Dead Redemption sequel, which is Red Dead Redemption 2, but it's funny because Red Dead Redemption was a sequel, so it's like Red Dead Revolver 3, Red Dead Redemption 2 kind of thing. But I probably won't play it for a while, but I look forward to when I eventually do play it.
Okay.
But then, you know, we touched base on Freedom Fighters a little bit in both this video and the last video.
Yeah.
I don't really have much to say other than, like, the squad-based combat in Freedom Fighters was amazingly simple, and I really wish another game would adapt that to where you had, like,
they kind of tried, I mean, like, going back to Spec Ops, they tried that in Spec Ops.
Yeah.
Remember how you had to be like, oh, tell your squad to shoot here, and tell you know this guy to do this thing, and I don't have any grenades.
Yeah, and they even had it in Gears where you could like signal out for your AI to attack, but I never felt they were very good at it.
Yeah, it wasn't super helpful, so there was no reason to really do it.
Yeah, I never really saw a benefit when I did it. If anything, it was wasteful because like it distracted me. But in like Freedom Fighters, like if I told them to go assault that position, they'd assault that position.
That's good.
And it'd be very beneficial. And if you told them to defend an area, like a lot of times if I knew that, I would tell my guys to defend like 2 corners of a street, and then I would go draw the enemy out myself. Okay. And because they were like defended, they would just like wipe out the Russians. And it's a mechanic I don't know if they haven't done another game. I haven't seen it, but I really think it's rife.
Oh like, man, I'm getting my ass kicked here.
Oh.
We are coming up on like the hour mark here though, so
Okay.
I'm probably just going to need to call this here in a little bit.
Well, if we have a few minutes, we have one more game we want to touch on.
Sure.
Tomb Raider, the new ones.
Oh yeah, okay. So I have mixed feelings about Tomb Raider as a current franchise because on one hand I did like the reboot quite a bit, but on the other hand I did play through all of Rise of the Tomb Raider, and I can tell you right now that I will probably never play that game again.
Okay, I have not played through that one. I thoroughly enjoyed the first
just Tomb Raider.
Tomb Raider. I need to replay it. The end kind of got a little wonky on me. I wasn't really sure what was happening. But overall, the game was fun. Reminded me of Batman Arkham games, which I really enjoyed those.
What it felt like to me was basically Arkham Asylum, like Arkham games, but with guns.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it felt like. And
It was kind of a combination of Arkham and Assassin's Creed.
Was it?
Yeah, because
That's another game another franchise that we could touch on is Assassin's Creed, but like
it's
I
not
don't
a
know.
shooter per se. Like
Nah.
you can throw knives and stuff, but
Yeah.
it's not a shooter.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, I guess this is supposed to be about shooters, but oh, you guy
Yeah,
in here.
Tomb Raider even, you don't even,
Tomb Raider is
you
more
don't
of an
really-
action adventure game.
Yeah, you don't really use guns that often. If you're using guns all the time, you're doing it wrong.
No, you're still using guns a lot. Like there are
Yeah,
a lot of
early on you aren't.
There are a lot of big set pieces where it's just like, no, you just like roll in, like exploding in from like the side of the mountain, and then you need to like shoot a bunch of guys in an ambush.
Yeah, but overall, I think that kind of covers all the third-person games we wanted to touch on. I'm sure we're forgetting some, but these are the ones that we obviously remember the best.
Right, I would agree with that.
It's the enemy.
Wait, I thought that would kill me.
Video game logic.
Oh, I know how to get myself killed. Okay.
We never talked about Metroid Prime in any of these videos.
Wow, that's sad because Metroid Prime's pretty good.
He loves Metroid Prime. Well, it's a great game.
I have played through Metroid Prime quite a bit. Hey guys. How am I not dead? I just took 2 RPGs to the face.
Why are you trying to kill yourself?
Because we're wrapping up, and I thought it would be a funny thing to just end with getting killed.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, yeah, I think that we've touched on pretty much everything here for the evening. Then, yeah, if you like this video, if you like to see videos of us just fooling around, playing video games, and having a good time talking about nerdy stuff, go ahead and throw this video a like and subscribe to my channel. I'll put up some more videos here in time. So thank you again, everybody, for watching. My name is Chris.
I'm Gary.
We'll see you next time. Bye.